She says, I worked for 30 years, then I lost everything. If God would allow us to return and live in safety, I would do that. My homeland is the most treasured thing in my life.
We've come to the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon to report on the flight of people out of Syria. Lebanon is a country that's absorbed an enormous number of refugees. Estimates range from 1.2 million, perhaps up to 2 million people in a country of just 4 million. You can imagine the strains that is putting on society here. And among them are increasing number of Christians who have come in, some of whom we have spoken to, who feel forgotten in this crisis. They feel they have been let down by the West, that their communities that have been established in Syria since the time of Christ are now disappearing rapidly.
They offer thanks for their safe passage out of Syria in the ancient Aramaic language of Christ. Their ancestors have survived the rise and fall of countless empires for 2,000 years. But now these people have been forced to flee the barbarous advance of the so-called Islamic State. Edward Adam arrived a week ago with his extended family. He tells me they left everything behind. The farm his family had spent 80 years building up is now probably in the hands of the Islamic State. This was the evacuation of their village 10 days ago. An entire community of Assyrian Christians forced to flee for their beliefs.
They burned the houses, they burned the church. We have 220 people, they are kidnapped, hostages, and ISIS. It's massacre.
Georgette got out before Islamic State's slaughter began. She's watched the plight of her fellow Christians with increasing horror. She says, I worked for 30 years, then I lost everything. If God would allow us to return and live in safety, I would do that. My homeland is the most treasured thing in my life.
But it's not just Syria's ancient Christian population which is part of this exodus out of the country. There are many hundreds of thousands of Muslims who've also sought sanctuary in the relative safety of Lebanon's Bekaa Valley.
Camped within sight of Syria's mountains, they remain a long way from returning. Christians and Muslims all facing the same bleak future, the forgotten exiles of nearly 4 years of war. Dan Rivers, ITV News, in the Bekaa Valley.